Hey everyone, is anyone there yet? Say hi in the chat if you're here. Okay, I see 6 people, and I already have 11 thumbs up. How did that happen? Good afternoon to me. Thank you very much. Yes, I know it's very late where some of you are. Thank you for joining. Riff Raff. All right, so we've got 3 people here. Oh, we've got Robert and Brian here. Awesome. Welcome. Got 5 people. Anyone else here? I'm going to give it just a couple minutes before I dive in and get started. My gosh, it has been a week and a half of almost nonstop rain. It has finally let up for the last couple hours. Maybe more than that. Maybe it's been 3 hours. But trying to film videos for YouTube outside has been absolutely hilarious. Welcome, Accurate Realist. It has been it's been quite a challenge. The upshot, I will say, to it being rainy in Vietnam. And just for those, I see 7 people here. We are just waiting a few more minutes before everyone trickles in and we'll get right into things. I'm just babbling about Vietnam. One of the upshots is that Vietnam is very crowded, but when we have massive typhoons here, the beach kind of empties out because the waves get huge and they basically wipe out a lot of the beach. But yesterday I did find a spot that was totally empty and the beach was relatively empty as well. And I'm filming the video and literally every single person on the beach decided to come hang out around me in the frame. So it was really, I don't know, it was very bizarre. It was like, I don't know, I was magnetizing them. All right, we've got 9 people here. Awesome. Welcome. 10 people. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, let everyone trickle in. But yeah, Vietnam is very amusing when it comes to you think you found peace and then you haven't. All right, so we have got 9 people here. If we don't get 15 in the next minute or two, I'm going to just start. Today we are going to talk about what holds us back from making the changes that we really want to make in our lives. And I will share from my own experiences. I will probably focus on what I went through making this move. I will also talk about the sort of things that I have noticed in the past, both for myself and for other people, that have held them back and where that fear comes from. And then we'll also go into a few insights and see if that can help you all, take the first few steps in the direction of the change that you want to make. And then the last thing we will do is I'm going to just open it wide up for everyone to ask questions, to share their own experiences, whatever you want to do. We do have 11 people here, and if you haven't been one of those thumbs up people, it'd be awesome if you did, because it pushes this live stream out to other people. Okay, so I made some notes because I want to stay very organized for you and be as efficient as possible in all of this. I know it's late for some of you and I don't want to keep you here longer than necessary. So first and foremost, I want to get into the sort of paralysis that a lot of people experience when it is. Oh, and sorry, before I get going, can everyone hear me okay? Just please put a comment in the chat box, because I'm not wearing my microphone. I'm just using my computer mic. Okay, great. Thank you, Brian. All right, so we're going to get into the fear of the unknown, why we stay stuck. Thank you, Riff Raff. Why we stay stuck, and then I'll get into some of my own experiences, and then we'll go back into the general. So when it comes to the unknown, I want to just start out by saying that we are almost all raised in cultures in which fear is I wouldn't just say cultures, I would say that the system ingrains fear into us in many different ways. And this is fear that goes well beyond the basic innate survival instincts that we have just as living beings. All beings have it, right? But we have had a lot of unnecessary fear drilled into us over the years. So, first and foremost, please don't be hard on yourself. Um, there are going to be some things that you will need to acknowledge and take responsibility for if you want to make change happen. But first, we're going to explore the fear aspect. So, uncertainty. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of us are willing to stay in positions that, and position. Oh, hey, Testimona. So we're all willing to stay in positions or situations or relationships, whatever it may be, that even if they're not terrible, they're no longer serving us. And so, but we stay there. Why? Because they're predictable. Okay. A lot of that fear comes from the unknown of what will happen if we do make the change, even if the potential for that change to bring us something even greater is there, which most of the time it is. It's there waiting for us. We just have to seize it. Now, predictability gives us this really strong illusion of safety. And I say illusion because that is the operative word here. It is an illusion. There's no such thing as safe. I would say that it's even more dangerous and more painful to stay in the situation that you're in. Because what happens over time is that the pain, discomfort, stress of the situation that you feel no longer suits you actually starts to intensify and intensify and intensify. And then you'll start to notice that your irritability goes up. You'll notice that your restlessness increases, and your energy levels may even drop. Okay. And then you start to get into this real deep paralysis stage, depending on how long you've been in that situation. And that paralysis stage, I have to say, is really the result of fear literally hanging on to you so tightly that you won't even take small steps in the direction of the life that you want. So, what can you do? Now, I'm going to get into my personal experience first, but I want to let you know that fear, our fear of making this change, and this is probably one of the most important things I'm going to share in this live stream, and that is that this fear is often disguised as logic. Okay, we use logic as an excuse for us being fearful. Okay, so for example, someone might want to maybe make the change that I made, right? But they think they don't have enough money. Okay, let's say they want to move to a country and they don't have an independent income stream yet, but they're working on it. And then they but they have 9 months of savings and no liabilities. Well, if I were them, I would say go for it, because you can keep saving and saving and saving, but what happens to you during that time that you're saving unnecessarily, for example, could be that your health plummets, could be that the stress levels increase, could be that your living situation becomes unpleasant, could be that you're just more and more dissatisfied. Now, okay, it doesn't always have to be that, but that is the point, is that we often use logic as a cover for our fear. It gives us the excuse not to take action. So I'm just going to go into my personal experience now. So for me, it was a little different than maybe a lot of what you folks are dealing with. Um, so I noticed that my health was taking a nosedive every single winter due to the cold. And so I keep explaining this, I want you to see the trajectory of my thought process and how it evolved and how it could evolve for you potentially. Now, when I started this channel, it was back in May, I believe, early May. And it was right around April or May where I noticed that my health was at its worst. My energy levels were low despite being outside a lot. It was always gray where I was. It and it was a very hard winter. And I had been dealing with health stuff anyway, and it was just I felt at the lowest I could be. And I know I could be a lot worse, but I'm just saying that was one of the worst periods in my life that I've felt physically, health-wise, and I'm generally a very healthy person, so it's dramatic. So then I knew that I needed to make a change, okay? But what held me in that place? It wasn't so much fear, it was comfort. I had a job that it was often very enjoyable, sometimes stressful, I'm not gonna lie, working with the public is no cakewalk. And I had a gorgeous apartment, and I was living in an amazing location. I was living in a location where people spend a lot of money to go on vacation, and I knew that, this is a once in an opportunity lifetime, and if I walk away from it, even though my body's telling me to, I may never be able to go back in the capacity that I was in there, because there can only be one night manager living in that one apartment in this very expensive town in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. And there aren't tons of accommodations around. So it was, I was in my head, it sounds very logical, but it's very fear driven. And I wanted to be able to maximize that experience. However, my body was telling me something different. And even my mind was. The fact that I was getting mildly my mood was getting gray to match the weather come April, May, and early June. I mean, it was all very, very clear that a change was needed. And I was quite insistent that I would finish my contract, stay until next year. And this is fear talking, right? This is not logic talking. And that way I could get the most of this experience, and then I was gonna come back to Southeast Asia, because for those of you who don't know, I have lived here before, and, and go to revisit some of the places that I loved, come to Vietnam for a few months, and also backpack to other places that I hadn't been. So that was the idea. That was the idea for late 2026, early 2027. And it was just gonna be a trip, a long trip, which is what I usually do, is just take a backpack and go. But I don't take them every year, obviously. It's not I definitely have worked. Um, but life brought me to a different place. And I was willing to speak with, I am fortunate in that um, my father, my stepmother, and my mother are generally very good, even-keeled people to speak to. And I don't usually seek advice. I usually just sometimes ask them if I can um, share what is on my mind. And my dad and my stepmother, I will put it out there, definitely encouraged me to make a change. And that was in the spring time, early June, late May, something around then. And I ignored it. Okay, so what happened when I ignored this and I did not make a change? So my health did improve a bit, somewhat, for like for about a month, the end of June till the end of July. And then it went, but at work got way stressful. Everything got so noisy around the hotel that I worked at, construction work, road work, lots of big gravel trucks and logging trucks and all these other things blazing through town, which sure, they've often done that, but it wasn't as normal. So I knew I needed to make a change, but I didn't. And so everything started to get very uncomfortable around me. I wasn't unhappy because I was still going out on my mountain trails and hiking and everything like that. But the environment around me got uncomfortable. A lot of drama started cropping up at work. And of course, in small environments, drama crops up anyway. But it was like it was amplified. And then it was like all of a sudden the guests were getting unbelievably demanding or obnoxious in many ways, which happens all the time in hospitality, but we were known for having a really awesome clientele for the most part, like tons of repeat business, people who still remember all of our names, those kind of people. People have been coming for, decades to the place. And yeah, so I noticed that everything was starting to crack and fracture, and life was shoving me out the door, okay? And the only reason I listened was because I landed in the ER. As some of you know, I did a video on it, and with pleurisy. And I don't know if any of you have ever had pleurisy, but it is unbelievably painful. It was probably one of the most painful things I've ever experienced. Just imagine a large child, a teenager, let's say, sitting on your chest, and then your lungs feeling like they're on fire every time you take a breath. Okay, you combine those two things, and that's pleurisy 24/7. And it took me maybe 4 or 5 weeks, 5 weeks, and I was still 90%. Just kind of hovered at 90%. And then eventually, um, I got better. But my point is that pleurisy woke me up. And it woke me up because I mentioned some things to my family, and they all just said, please do something. Whatever it is, we support you. And so the first thing that came to mind is, well, you've done all this research on Vietnam and some other places in Southeast Asia, plotting your backpacking trip for 2026, late 2026. It was over a year from when I was planning on doing it that I had started, like when I made this change. My trip was supposed to be like September, October of 2026, maybe August. And then here I am in late August thinking, oh my God, I need to give notice at my job because my body was forcing me to stop. I worked with pleurisy. Like I took 1 week off because that was all the paid vacation I had. And I didn't want to eat into savings, which was silly. I should have but I knew it would have been really hard. I'm kind of one of those people who's like, oh my God, it's going to be really hard on our skeleton crew as it is. So I kind of did it. But the point was, though, is that by late August, so within 1 month of landing in the ER, I gave notice. I booked my ticket to Vietnam. I said, guess what? I'm not going backpacking. I'm moving. And and this region I just have an affinity for. It's also very reasonably priced. That's why I chose it. But I share all of this to say, don't get to the point where I got to. Okay. If there's a change that you want to make, whether it's to dramatically overhaul your life, to learn a new skill or a new hobby, please go ahead and start taking the steps, because you will end up in a situation where you don't want to be. And it doesn't mean you're going to land in the ER, of course. I don't believe that, but depends how stressful your situation is. Um, Now, what happened, because I waited so long and I didn't start making the changes when I needed to, aside from landing me in the ER, is that I needed to get out fast. It was starting to hover right above freezing temperatures, and my body was already starting to respond negatively to that. And I literally gave 3.5 weeks notice at work, and I left in 4 weeks. I think it was. No, I left. I gave 3 weeks notice and left in 3.5 weeks. That's what it was. And my employer was incredibly appreciative of the notice. I know in some places that's short, but in the US, 2 weeks notice is standard. Um, Thank you, Mimi. And so I basically, from scratch, had to organize my whole life. That means get all my phones onto international phone plans, set up, a mail service. I have a mail service, and they scan all my mail for me. It's one of the top mail services in the world. I had to organize that. I had to set up all my accounts for traveling. Um, I had to pack all my things, sell things, move things to a relative's place, which was several hours away. I was still working, except for the last 3 days before, or no, 4 days before I came to Vietnam. Worked all the way through and did all this. And I just have to say, don't do that to yourself because it's not fun. Um, so what you can do, and hi Tony, hi Mimi. We're gonna get to comments and questions soon, I promise. And so my point is that if there's something you want to change in your life, it's irrational to let fear hold you back. Okay, fear of the unknown. And also, it is highly detrimental to your mental and physical and emotional well being to sit in a place of discontent or a place where a position in life where you don't feel fulfilled. Um, and just don't let yourself get there because it's not a pleasant place to be. I know people who have literally been saying that they are going to make changes for over a decade and they are still living the exact same existence that they are. And when you watch people deteriorate mentally and emotionally and even physically like that, it is really sad because I believe that every single one of us are here for really amazing reasons, and to have those divine gifts be wasted in a place in a life or whatever, or in a relationship or whatever it may be, that's not serving you is really depressing and so sad, and it's a waste of great human energy. So that's my personal experience. I want to get into a few more things on a general level, and then we can all talk and everything like that. Ask me questions, share your experiences, whatever you want to do. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the next thing on my list was there is no perfect time. There is absolutely no perfect time to do something. The only perfect time to make change is right now. It was yesterday, but right now is even better. A lot of people and that whole notion of waiting to be ready or waiting for the perfect time is an absolute myth. There is only right now. And so I really encourage people to start by really writing down a clear picture of the life that you want, the change that you want to make, and be as when you write, there's a lot of power there. You're putting your energy on paper, and do it by hand with a pen, not on tablets. Don't type it. There's something that connects the mind, the hemispheres of the brain when you write by hand, especially if you write in cursive. I actually used to study a bit with a woman. She was actually a neuroscientist, and she had studied she taught me about cursive and how they connect the hemispheres of the brain. It was like playing musical instruments, painting, learning foreign languages, and writing in cursive were the four ways that she said oh, did I say musical instrument? If I didn't, that's in there. But those are the ways that she said that you connect both hemispheres of the brain, and it really ignites your creative energy when you're doing that. And when you are making a great change in your life, that is creative energy. Okay. I know everyone thinks that creative energy is just art or music or whatever. No, creative energy is to create, manifest change, whether it's material or beyond. Um, so just stay focused on that, get a very clear vision. The more you can refine it, the better. And then really feel into it. What does it feel like to live that life or that change, that new job, that new home, that new country, whatever it may be, that just, or a new relationship, or just you don't even want a relationship. You just want to be free of the one you're in, whatever that may be. And then as I've told my Patreon subscribers, go ahead and make a list of things that you can do. Okay. Make a list, get started. It could be small or big things. Doesn't, you don't have to do them in any particular order. Just start free writing. Jot them all down, small or large. and really make a commitment to yourself to go ahead and say, I am going to move my life in the direction of the one I want, and I'm going to do at least one thing per day. Okay. Because, the one thing I've realized is that society teaches us to keep promises to everyone else, that is the honorable thing to do, that is the right thing to do, but we're also taught to be selfless and that we should always put others first. And I don't agree with that. We have to keep promises to ourselves too. Um, Only we can live our lives. And if we sacrifice our lives to always put others before ourselves and we don't take care of ourselves, we have nothing left to give. We are shells of what we could possibly be. And we are not well equipped to bring forth our natural gifts in life if we are not taking care of ourselves. So please go ahead and take actionable steps and keep those promises to yourself. Let's see, what else? I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. Oh, no, wait, there's one more thing I forgot. Comfort zones. I did talk about this in a trail talk, and actually, I think I talked about it in several videos, but trail talk number one, which I will link in the description box after this live stream is over, talks about expanding our comfort zones. Okay, so fear is very irrational. Okay, it's not based on reality, it's all in the head. And I want you to know that the more you make yourself used to change, the easier it gets. I've lived in 7 countries now. I have done well over a dozen different jobs in my lifetime, if not more. It's probably a dozen and a half. And I'm used to change. I am very used to change. And it gets easier every time, but it doesn't mean I don't go through everything that everyone else does. Okay. Sometimes it's easier for me to take that leap because I'm so used to taking leaps all the time, it feels like. But I drag my heels and do the same thing as everyone else. But I will say it does get easier over time. And you are expanding your comfort zone. So if your comfort zone's here, but you make a change and you learn something new, or you go somewhere new, or you get a new job, or whatever it is, or you leave an unhealthy relationship, then your comfort zone expands and it keeps expanding. The more you do something new, the more chances you take on yourself. And that's the goal. And so that way change becomes less and less uncomfortable as you do it. And the last thing I should also mention in relation to that is that action creates momentum. Okay, so you need to keep following up on your actions. The moment you stall is when you fall back into that uh, sometimes depressive state. It could be a state of feeling stuck. Okay, so life rewards action. So start moving in that direction of the life that you want. Um, and make sure that you start tending to your thoughts. That is extremely important. If you want something, your mind needs to be focused on it. If your mind is leaking energy, i.e., attention is going to all these other places, and you're not staying present and staying focused on what you are trying to create for yourself, you are not going to create it. And if you do, you are not going to create exactly what you want. So notice where you're leaking energy in your life and how you can rein that back in. Are there people that are draining you of energy, that are wasting your time, that it's not a rewarding mutual friendship, relationship, work, collaboration, whatever it is? And or it could be habits. Could be habits. If for any reason you see those things in your life, start to rein them in. A lot of people scroll on the internet. Now, I know that you're here watching live and that we're all on the internet together. But the fact of the matter is that you all showed up here with a purpose, and the fact that you want to make change is obvious. So kudos to you, because clearly you're not playing victim. And victimhood will keep you paralyzed in unhappy situations forever. It's just how it goes. Life does not reward complaints, victimhood, and defeatism. It rewards action, positivity, imagination, and courage. And I believe that every single person, whatever I talk about, you all have what it takes to make any single change you want in your life. Um, I'm just reminding you, I'm like pointing towards the tools on how to access that. And now, before I open it up to comments, I do want to let folks know, if you haven't signed up, that I am doing a transformational deep dive session next week, Saturday, November 1st, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I am going to just uh, post that in the chat here. Actually, I'm going to have to post it in the description, but I will post the link for you because my list of info here is too long. Bear with me one second. All right. In case you want to sign up, it's a pay what you can event. It's really mostly to just, we're going to go pretty deep on this, and I'm going to teach you breath work. And so for those of you who don't know, I used to work as a posture and alignment trainer for many years. And there's a very specific breath work that we do in that training in tandem with the exercises I have clients do. I'm going to teach you an in-depth yet simplified version of that breath work. We're going to talk about the physiology and anatomy, and we're also going to practice. It is required that you have a place to lie down and listen to me. You don't need to watch. You can just listen, and I will guide you through it. We're also going to do a guided meditation, and then I'm going to talk about some strategic habits that you can start to implement in order to eradicate the not so favorable habits and patterns, and how to detect those patterns. A lot of us have patterns that we aren't even aware of. And this is just to give you a taster, of course. And then also, if you are interested in coaching, I'm going to start opening it up to small group coaching. And by that, that would be like 6 people, and then individual coaching as well. And if I haven't opened that up yet, but if you are interested, I'm posting the link for that just here. Again, these will all be in the description box afterwards. Now, I want to open it up to your questions and just to say hi to a few people. So the coaching link again is just to submit your interest, and I will reach out to you as soon as I'm ready to get started. Let's see, Tony, welcome. James, welcome. I'm just going to go through the comments. Mimi, any tips on connecting with our intuition, inner voice? I tend to rationalize everything to the point where I end up either not knowing what to do or just don't do anything. Yes. Breath work is extremely important. That's one of the reasons I am integrating it into the transformational deep dive next week. And that is because if you have the tools to breathe properly, which most people have no idea how to breathe properly. Most people don't even know where the diaphragm is and how to activate it, quite frankly. A lot of people either breathe into their upper chests or they breathe into their bellies, neither of which are beneficial to you long term. And I will say that a lot of people, Mimi, when we are getting into the rational state too much, it's because we cannot turn on our parasympathetic nervous system, and that is the part of our nervous system that goes into rest repair mode. And so that's why I want to teach the breath work, because it's a useful tool for folks to calm themselves down and to clear their minds. And we can pair that with meditation, and that really helps, because it's once you get into that quiet zone, and I can tell you, a lot of people say, oh, meditation doesn't work. My brain runs nonstop. I can tell you that the more you practice, yes, a lot of thoughts run through your brain, but as long as you don't attach to them, you eventually get to a part of stillness, or a place of stillness. And that will really help you, Mimi, on reconnecting with your inner voice and your intuition. Also, if you can go hiking or take walks in nature somewhere or go somewhere peaceful, where you're surrounded by natural beauty, not man-made. Well, we are part of nature, but no concrete jungle type stuff. That will also help you a lot. Tony, also in from Seattle. I always have a good Seattle crowd here. Tony and Brian are definitely two of the several that are showing up today. Thank you so much. James, you were the final push for me between tugging on both ends of the rope with keeping my smartphone and getting a dumb phone. Thanks. Oh, I'm glad to be of service. That's awesome. Yeah, I will say that life, in my experience, has always been more peaceful with either a light phone or a flip phone or a basic phone. Unfortunately, my moving abroad made me have to go back to a smartphone because a lot of the banking that I need to do online requires that I have authenticator apps and 2FA and stuff that I can't do. And I need to also be able to use a VPN for safety purposes. James, I'm excited but feel kind of bad. Started talking to a few romantic interests, but I simply, even as a 23-year-old male, find it hard to relate to others my age. For now, I do not want to pursue. James, you know what? That's totally reasonable. You might very well be an old soul, as I like to put it, when it comes to that. And maybe it's just time for you to go out and explore your interests and really pursue the things that are of a real concern to you, and then maybe you'll come to a place in life when you feel ready for a relationship, which you sound like you are, but at the same time you're not intrigued by anyone who's around you. But you will, when you're pursuing your interests and these new places, new hobbies, new jobs, whatever it is, you will come into contact with people who resonate with you more. I think a lot of people just try to date who's around them, and that's not always the best. It's usually when you start doing the things you love, you end up meeting people who share the same interests as you, and that's where you're going to align with someone. And they may feel more like you're equal. Let's see. Hey, Stephen, over there in South Korea. Welcome. Yeah, life in Vietnam, it's been very wet lately. We've had typhoon after typhoon, but I am managing to get out to the beach whenever I can. Glad you're here. The Brave Stream. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Mimi, super helpful. Thank you. Yes, when I meditated regularly, I felt a lot better. Also found the somatic meditation and yoga nidra. Yes, yoga nidra is beautiful, very relaxing. Mimi, I don't know if you know anything about this, but I did a video on it. I think the thumbnail is called Travel and Heal. I don't have the link right now. And I talk about my experience at one of the Vipassanas I've done. I've done several of them. They're located all over the world, but Vipassana meditation is a silent meditation retreat. And I'm typing it here for you. And you can see all the locations all over the globe on this website, dhamma.org. Let's see. James says he's perfectly fine with being alone, which is a trait I do not notice much with my peers. Will you be living in Vietnam indefinitely? James, the fact that you are very fine with being alone, yeah, you are, as a 23-year-old, you're way ahead of the curve. I know 70-year-olds who are not comfortable in their own skin, or well, they're older than 70, they're like late 70s. So, that's awesome. Good for you. If you feel great being alone, enjoy it, go after what you want, and the right person will cross your path. Vietnam indefinitely, I don't know about that. Until I build a cabin somewhere, which you can't buy land in Vietnam, so I'm definitely not here indefinitely. I just can't tell you how long I am going to be here for. Um, but I would like to use it as a base and then bounce around Southeast Asia quite a bit. But I'm going to stay here for, until my visa expires. It's a 90-day visa, and then go off, either check out an old place that I've loved or go somewhere new. Stephen, which part of Vietnam? I am in Da Nang or Da Nang, excuse me, is the correct pronunciation. All right. So any questions for me on making changes or just anything you want to share? It's been about 40 minutes and I don't want to overdo it here. No problem. Yes, no problem. James, we were just talking about, when you want to make changes in life and what like what the fear is that is holding us back, and how it's really an irrational uncertainty, an irrational fear of the unknown and uncertainty, and how, we are raised in societies that that are entrenched in fear, and all of it far exceeds anything that is based on reality. Most of the time, it's far beyond our innate um, survival instincts. And so I was just talking about how uncomfortable life gets when there are changes that we want to make and changes that we know we need to make. And the longer we stay in those stagnant positions, the harder and more uncomfortable they become. So, yeah, and I talked about my experience. I'll let you rewatch that, of what eventually got me to leave my job that I very much enjoyed, and especially the town that I was living in. Just the whole region was phenomenal, and it was something that was necessary. Yes, change is good. I'm looking forward to it. Keeps life interesting in the brain from atrophying. That is absolutely right, Stephen. I'm with you. Any questions for me about this? Again, I am doing that live stream at next week, Saturday, November 1st at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It is a pay what you can event. It's not a live stream, it's via Zoom. And again, we're going to go into the breath work, guided meditation, and then we're going to go through some tools and techniques to make change happen and to stick with it. I really want to emphasize that the more you keep promises to yourself, the more your confidence builds and the more you feel like the change is actually possible. Oh, yes, the global vagabond just shared a great nugget of wisdom. Having too many choices causes people not to make any choices at all, which is absolutely right. Yep. Yeah. And uh, you can't make a change. So I will, that highlights something that is very, very important. Thank you so much for making that comment, because it's something that has been on my mind. And it is, if you don't know where you're aiming, you can't hit the target, okay? Like, you need to know what your target is and what it looks like for making change in your life. And the less clarity you have about what you want, the harder it is to see where you're going and to point your arrow. Okay. Mimi, are there any routines, habits you maintain daily that you find essential in my day-to-day life? Yes. Okay, so I heard this once, and I think his name, sorry, I haven't listened to him in quite a while, but his name, I believe, is Chase Hughes. Chase Hughes. I'll type his name for anyone. And if I'm not mistaken, he is the world leading expert on human behavior, and he has contracted for massive government agencies around the globe, including US. And he talks about how we need to make things easy for ourselves. And granted, I did this on some level before I ever heard him talk. Like, he says, what do you say? He says, um, take care of your future self. Like, it's like you're paying it forward for your future self. You're doing things to constantly look after yourself, your future self. So, and you're eliminating friction in your life. So, for example, auto pay. If you have bills, just put them on auto pay, because you're otherwise that's occupying and a lot of mental space that it doesn't need to. Um, my inbox literally has an archive. It has some other folders that I divide things up on, but there's like a response needed, action needed, and they go into those. And if it's junk, they get deleted immediately. And that way, when I log into my inbox and my email, it's empty. Okay. Or it's just the brand new emails. But when I close it, it's empty. I also don't do email all day. I know a lot of people do that, and I don't. I kind of batch everything. I'm tried to streamline my life as much as possible, so I batch things. If I'm going to reconcile my business expenses, I do that all at once a week, and then at the end of the month, I make sure I got it all together and that I didn't miss anything. But I don't do that every day, because it just, I want to keep focused on just 2 to 4 things. Usually it's 3, but 2 to 4 things a day One of those being something big, and then there are three smaller administrative things. So I don't try to overload myself. That has been a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It hasn't been easy. But I want to get into the pay it forward thing, where you're always looking after your future self. So, for example, he struck me when he said this. He was talking about always setting your clothes out for the night before for tomorrow. And I've done that for so long. And that is because it removes friction from your day and do the things. And also, I should mention that I've always, always, always tried, not, it hasn't always worked out, but I've often created a life whereby I didn't have to work until the afternoon, because fact of the matter is your brain power is at optimum level in the morning, especially if you're sleeping and eating properly and you're not living indoors in artificial light all the time. It's the morning. And so I knew that if I wanted to do things for myself and to live my life for myself and still make a living, that I would always move work around my life. And so that's why I often took afternoon, evening jobs. And then I spent the whole morning doing what I wanted to do, what meant the most to me, so that no matter what happened at work, the day still felt like mine. And that was kind of like taking care of my future self all the time. If actually, I would say that if I hadn't done that, this YouTube channel wouldn't exist, because if I had my colleagues shift instead, yeah, it'd be dark 6 months out of the year by the time I finished work, and I'd never get outside, and I would start before the sun came up or right as the sun is coming up, and none of that resonates with me. Another thing you can do, like, the whole setting the clothes out, again, you're eliminating friction and wasting energy at the beginning of the day, the most important part of the day. Whatever's important to you, set aside, wake up. If you wake up 30 minutes early, but it's because you want to paint or draw for 30 minutes or whatever it is, read a book, write, you know, you're going to have the mental power for it. He often used another example. What was it? Oh yes, if you're a coffee drinker, you set your coffee maker up the night before, so all you do is push a button the next morning. Again, making everything as effortless as possible for yourself in the future. And saving money, for example, he would automate saving money. I've been doing that actually for about 2 years now, or year and a half, automating my savings. I never used to do that. I used to just save and then save again. And again, it's just all about eliminating thought and automating things wherever you can, that contains your energy. So let's go on. Maybe, yes, those are what I do for the most part. When I was working a job and not being freelance, I would make my lunch the night before almost all the time. The days I didn't, oh, it just threw my whole rhythm off. And I'm in the middle of the day making my lunch and then rushing to work. And it's not fun, even though I only had to rush downstairs. But yeah. James, I agree. I've learned that the initial gut feeling you get when a crossroads is typically the correct option. Yep, absolutely. Tony says doing the right breathing technique during my meditation really helps silence the mind. Absolutely. Music really helps too sometimes. I should meditate daily, but I don't. Um, I also wanted to talk about one more thing before we wrap up and I take any final questions or read any comments, is that when you make dramatic changes, you get closer and closer to the time that the change is about to happen, and then the change has happened. And for example, you're going to feel a mixed bag of emotions. I think it happens almost all the time. For example, there was a little bit of sadness. Actually, there was a lot of sadness leaving my mountain town, but I knew I was moving on to something great. So I was excited at the same time, but there was a deep sadness of leaving these empty mountain trails and those woods and the stream. Well, I get a little teary just even talking about it, but yeah, so there is a little grief that's involved, and that's okay and that's normal. Um, but also know that you're going to be rewarded immensely for making positive change for yourself. And so Yeah, there's just know that that's normal. If you go through that, happens often, and you're not alone. So, is there anything anyone has questions about? All right, so I will again, if you feel like joining that transformational deep dive next week, Saturday, I will put the information in the description of the video. You may have to wait a bit, or you can scroll up just a tiny bit here in our chat to my two links. And then also, I will be opening up one-on-one and small group coaching very soon, and you can submit your interest on the link there as well. That's right below the deep dive link, just a little bit up in our chat. Thank you very much, Shekhar. Are there any final questions before we go? Just give it a second. You're very welcome, Brian and Riffraff and James. Oh, James has a question here. Any tips for conflicting thoughts that will arise in with the transition away from a smartphone? You know what? The conflicting thoughts is this. Keep your smartphone, put it in a cabinet, give it a try for 3 months. If you don't like it, that smartphone will always be there. And if you end up loving it, then you can if you end up loving not having a smartphone, you can get rid of the smartphone. I think that's it. I think God, I think it was a long time ago I heard him say this, but this never left my brain. I used to find listening to Dave Ramsey rather amusing. He's that finance guru who's worth like hundreds of millions of dollars. And he always would go through the numbers with people and tell them why it is illogical to keep a mortgage if you don't have to. And they think that they're saving on taxes, but he actually shows them how much more they're paying in interest on their mortgage and how that deeply outweighs the taxes. And it relates exactly to your question because he said, pay off your house. If you miss your mortgage, you can go out and get another one. The bank will give you one. And that's exactly it. So if you are having conflicting thoughts is you can always get your smartphone back. You can always take it out of that cabinet and use it again if it is not working for you. I will say that if you don't like, there's going to be an aspect where a lot of the superficial relationships in your life kind of start to fade when you go to a basic phone. Because for me, well, at least they did in my book, because I just said if it's not for logistical purposes, don't text me because I won't respond. Call me, email me, but don't text me because texting on a light phone or a dumb phone is not pleasant. And also, I switched to this phone so that I wouldn't be on the phone all the time. And yeah, and a lot of people miss the point. So if you have superficial like relationships, friendships, whatever they may be in your life, they're probably going to disappear or fade a bit. Just keep that in mind. Some people struggle with that. I have no problem with that. So it didn't bother me, but I thought I'd bring it up just in case. Shekhar, this is actually a very focused live stream about making changes in our lives. So I'm not going to go into the personal stuff, but I do have lots of videos out and, always welcome you to join one of our live streams in the future as well. Okay, so Shekhar, you have a question about you. You are a Forex trader, and what do you mean you want to build your patience? Oh, can you give me a scenario so I can answer that better? I would like to be able to give you my thoughts, but I'm not certain. I don't know a ton about Forex trading, so I don't know what that requires. Okay, Shekhar, we're gonna block you now. We do not talk about that. Okay. Let's see. Bear with me, everyone. Depends, Bravestream. We're trying to stay focused here on the subject. James, yes, privacy and AI are concern issues. I completely understand that. Yes, and also I liked, and I'm gonna do a shameless plug here, be- because I liked Light Phone because it's a decentralized, it's not totally decentralized, but the devices itself, the device itself is not sending data back to um, to the company and about your activity. Of course, your phone company is tracking you and all those other things, but yeah. Anyway, I will bear with me. I am just that's my affiliate link if you are interested in a light phone. It supports the channel. It costs you no extra to use it. So if you decide to go for it, um no problem, the Brave State. We're talking about the fear that people um have, that we all have when it comes to making big changes, and how it's illogical and irrational. And I went through all of that, but we're just wrapping it up here. If there aren't any former, I mean, any other, I'm looking at the person I blocked. I'm thinking a former member of the chat. If there aren't any other questions, then I will wrap it up here. Yeah, thank you, James. I appreciate that. I wanted to thank you all for being here. Yes, I enjoy very much chatting with people. Oh, we have a comment here. Bear with me. The Global Vagabond says, my cave diving instructor told us to pretend that we only have 100 brain cells when we wake up, and we need 70 for a safe dive. Don't waste them on BS because it could cost you your life. Yeah, absolutely. And well, I was wasting my brain cells not listening to my body, so I learned that lesson. It could have cost me my life if I kept it up. Anyway, I really wanted to say thank you for being here, not only because I enjoy interacting with you all, but because there are 26 of you here, and that means that you're all looking to make changes. And I love being around people who are willing to take action on their lives and be responsible for them, and to not leave their happiness and fulfillment and expect others to leave those things in the hands of others and expect other people to create fulfilling lives for them, or expect things to just happen on their own. We've got to move in the direction of what we want, and just absolutely kudos to you all for doing that, for being here. Oh, the Brave Stream has a question. I'm 31 years old, and only now I realize that my life is a big, big lie. Starting to change myself, but I slip every time on the same thing, like wake up in the morning. I can't even do that. It just sounds like you need rest. And, sometimes I had a nice, I think it was Canadian actually, who was living and working in Europe, and he didn't, he knew he wanted to change, and he was going to rush. He wanted to move back to Canada. He felt like it was the right thing to do, but he wasn't certain exactly what he wanted to do, but he wanted to get out of the corporate job that he was in. And he asked me what my thoughts were. And my immediate thought was, if you don't know what you want to do, but you know you need change, is to take time out. You won't be able to make change if your fuel tank is empty, so to speak. And I don't mean that literally about food and everything. Of course, that's true too. But um, I mean it in terms of your own life force, your own sort of will to just get out of bed and live. But normally, if you can't even get out of bed in the morning, it's a sign that you need to change. And you just allow yourself, if you have the freedom to take time off. I encouraged that young man. I didn't know his financial situation, so I provided him with opportunities that wouldn't require much in the way of financial um, investment, and that was to go register to go woof. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it's like the worldwide organic farming um, platform, where you can go and apply to volunteer at different organic farms around the world. And they give you free housing and usually some meals in exchange for like 20 hours of work a week or something like that. And I also Help X is another like work trade type thing, where you get accommodations and often food, and you can volunteer at all these different types of organizations or businesses all over the world. Let me see if I can pull them up for you, just in case any of these would be helpful to you. And again, these are ones that don't require people to have tons of money, but you can just go and relax by a beach or go hiking or go trekking in the mountains for, you know, a month, whatever it is. But the Brave Stream, I really encourage you to take time out for yourself in whatever capacity that you can, because you won't be able to make any real changes until you feel good in your body again. So here's the Help X one. And let me get the other one. I'm just looking for the woof one. All right. And here's woof. Now you do have to, when you figure out which country you'd like to go woofing in, here's the woof. And you'll have to register for the country you're interested in doing it in. And there's a small annual membership fee. Anyway. Yep. Yeah, Brave Stream, it sounds like you're running yourself into the ground, and it's you you're responsible for it, so it won't stop until you say no and just start putting yourself first, not your bank account. You'll be amazed how things change in a positive way if we start to put ourselves first and take care of ourselves. All right, so are there any more questions, comments before we go? Brian, I saw your thank you earlier. You're most welcome. All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for being here. I saw your thank you earlier. You're most welcome. All right, everyone. Again, thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. If you want to make more changes, I'll see you all in the deep dive or in a future live stream. And you're welcome to join us on Patreon as well. I do some coaching. It's not even coaching. I share some of my coaching stuff on there as well. And the link will be in the description box later on, okay? All right, everyone. You all are so welcome. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone from Vietnam.